right? So we can go so far, and again, you'll recall of this slide that I've shown you before, and I developed with you. This is what we want to do. We've been focusing, on the projects here, the programs here, the Monroe stuff here, the Ray Lewis stuff here, and Jason is behind there somewhere. And then, what I've been trying to say, let's try to make the connections between the literacy and the curriculum and the assessment, which you are doing, all right? And I've seen really good practice. In some of the schools, I've seen quite outstanding practice about how you have taken the sort of the Monroe stuff and then sort of spread it throughout the school, So it's not just a project, but it's become pervasive inside the school. I've seen really good examples of that. And then how you're sort of embedding this into the sort of the organization of the school, right? And what differentiates the good schools here and the ones which are still sort of on the journey is your ability to take these and to make it sense inside your own school, right? Which is something I can't tell you how to do. You have to do that yourself. And that's where we can learn from each other, right? That's why I think we need to move to a different phase of working. And then in the 12 schools that I've been referring to, again, there's a very, very similar pattern. Focus on these 8 factors, and it's the interaction of these factors which really sort of make the difference. And if I just pull out the 8 factors which seem to be sort of operating in terms of sort of achieving excellence, there are those there on the screen. And again, I think that's pretty compatible with the sort of the work that Graham and Graham and Vic were talking about. So, where I'm going to stop now. Where I've tried to take you so far, right, is to say, look, we know these are important. We know that, as a checklist. The question is, how do we mix those together in terms of our own organisation, all right? And that's going to be the debate we're going to try to have as we go through the morning. And I'm going to try and structure a number of activities to sort of help us do that as we do go through the morning. But what I'd like you to do now for a few minutes is just to talk on your tables about those 8 factors. Do you think they're important? Are we clear about what we mean by them? All right? So let's just have a little bit debate about the conceptual clarity and the practical clarity of those things. I'll take a little bit of a discussion on that. And then I'm going to show you a video of Trish's school in Bristol, right? And I'm going to ask you to look at that video through a different type of lens, all right? Not to say, oh, this is a good school, right? But to actually begin to critique what she is doing through the lens of those factors, all right? So not just to accept that this is a good school, but to actually be critical of what she's doing, trying to disclose what her practice is and relate that to our own, all right? So we'll try and do a medical rounds approach, but, on a video. But before we do that, just like you to have a look at those factors, discuss them on the table. I've talked too much, as always. Just have a bit of a chat about those, and then we'll debate their validity before we move on. Okay, well, what I'm going to do now is show you this video of Trish's school, and what I'm going to ask you to do is to look at this video now through a particular lens, and the lens are these eight factors. And you should have on your tables a sheet which actually has those factors identified, okay? And we've got a sort of a rating on the sort of the right-hand side of the page. One of the things we use in England, well, in fact, in other countries quite a bit, is what we call a RAG rating. RAG stands for red, amber, green, right? And it's quite a good way of giving an assessment of where an organisation or a school is at a point in time. if you're green, it doesn't mean you've actually ticked the box and you've solved all the world's problems. But at that point in time, you're doing quite well. You know? And we use this in a lot of our work to provide a sort of a continuing monitoring process of an organisation. We developed this in the early years of doing public sector reform in England, and particularly with Prime Minister Blair, and we would actually give him these ratings on the education system, on the health service, on the transport system, and they were quite a good way of actually sort of mapping regular progress against a set of criteria.